This week may be dedicated to competitive content, but we can take a few steps back. So far, in fact, I need to imagine that you're a new player. Why? You see, when you're a new player, you're a lot more impressionable, as we've discussed before. What this means is this is the best time to expose the player to all kinds of mechanics that the game has to offer. So around 6 months ago, I wrote a post on the Paladins subreddit on what starter champions should be. Before we get into that, this is the list of the current champions that are available in the free rotation. Victor, Cassie, Drogoz, Kinessa, Fernando, Tyra, Pip, and Skye. Now, this is the list that I made with a brief explanation of why I chose them. This is what I wrote 6 months ago. Frontline should be Fernando and Barik. Fernando is a typical tank with a shield and a high health pool, so he should be in the rotation anyways, which he is. I've chosen Barik because he is not a traditional tank. He can deploy turrets, has a low HP pool, and plays differently to every other tank. Barik also has a different weapon, which means it's not a traditional weapon, which again gives you a feel for the game. Damage, Victor and Drogoz. Victor doesn't need much explaining, I feel. He's a generic shooter, assault rifle, sprint and aiming down sights. Nice introduction to the FPS in general. I picked Drogoz for a few reasons. Firstly, it adds the concepts of projectiles to the game, so aiming at the place where the enemy are standing changes by the time you hit them. Forward planning is necessary. Secondly, flying abilities. You can shoot while in the air and also vulnerable, which teaches the importance of positioning and not flying for the sake of flying. Support, Grok and Pip. Grok is chosen because while he's a healer, he is different. You don't give out heals passively, you can't, aim your heals. You need to physically be near the person and heal the spot, as your heals don't move. Invulnerability is also added to the mix to cover more mechanics, and you need to coordinate with your team your ultimate because it heals your team and not you. Pip is also in the free champions, which is good because he has curved projectiles, heals that can be thrown, and ultimate that is heavy CC, which you can ult on your own, but supporting a team it is much more effective. And finally we have flank. For that I've chosen Skye and Buck. Skye is an obvious choice for a flanking character, stealth, fast movement speed, can get close to your enemies to do impactful damage, and it's just an easy kit to understand. Buck is my second selection. While it was a decision between Buck and Droxus, Buck makes more sense. Self-heal, prioritizing combinations for deadly damage, so leap, hit and net, or leap, net and hit, and air control. And Droxus has reversal, but that's about it. His damage is hit scan and he has air trial abilities as well, which we've covered in Drogoz and Grok. Jumping back to the present, this was our initial list. So we need to figure out why Cassie, Kinessa and Tyra offer that Barik, Buck and Grok don't. There are multiple projectile speeds in the game, which means different arcs, shape and, like I've said before, speed. With Drogoz already being in the free champion rotation, it didn't make much sense to add Cassie as well. That's the key word again, it didn't. It didn't make sense at the beginning, but now I think about it, she brings out new flavor. Comparing projectile speeds, Cassie's projectiles are much faster than Drogoz's, and that's all good. But what exactly is Cassie in the base? She's the hunter's daughter and has a crossbow. Compare that to Drogoz, who has a rocket launcher. While one champion is encouraged to stay in the air and blast down enemies, which would be Drogoz, the other is expected to stay on the ground and hunt her targets in the air. It's even encouraged in Cassie's kit. Her legendary card's Big Game encourages you to hit all those aerial shots. Coming to think of it, Cassie is one of the only champions that truly captures the essence of air combat. Then we have Kinessa, who frankly covers a few mechanics. Firstly, she has a true alternate fire, which means you can either use your carbine or your sniper as the same gun. Then, and more importantly, she has a mines. Deployables which slow, generate quite quickly and die after getting hit once. So you can experiment a lot and understand deployable placement. There is also a teleporter which covers a few mechanics as well. Finally we have Tyra, and frankly she and Grok are quite the same while being quite different. What I mean by this is, while they have overtime damage, the other has overtime heal. So I don't know what to say really. So is the starting champion roster a bit skewed? Well, yes, of course it is. 5 damage and then 1 of each. But is the starting champion roster bad? I don't think it is. If anything, it may even be better than what I said 6 months ago. A lot of people like damage, so teaching them most of the mechanics for the class most of the population plays with doesn't seem like bad game design to me. If anything, it sounds like future-proofing, and we can't really call them bad for trying a new idea, which, you know, frankly is genius.